Welcome to the new Muzie platform. We have completely rebuilt the platform from scratch for 2026 and onwards. And we're really excited to share this with everybody. First off, the URLs will still be the same. Muzie.Live will take you to the home page. Muzie.studio will take you to the app. So you can keep using the same links that you've been using in the past. We have tons of new features, but we have quite a lot of the same stuff that has been improved, and we have removed a couple of things or changed them. So this is a full overview of the entire new Muzie platform. This video is going to be from a teacher's point of view. I will do an additional video for the studio and an additional for the student. So let's get started. The first thing is, if you're new, you might want to create an account. So what you'll do is you go to muzie.live, click sign up, and that will take you to this page. Click click teacher, fill out all the information needed, and then click create account, and then follow a couple of steps that are on screen. Essentially, all you have to do is verify your email address and then log in. And that's pretty much it. So I'm going to go ahead and sign into my account. As you can see, my account is loaded with stuff already. So when you get in, you're going to have a blank account. Unless you are moving from old Muzie to new Muzie, we are going to move all of your stuff over to this new platform. So that way you will actually have a whole bunch of content and resources already inside your account. So I just want you to be aware that if you already have an account on Muzie and you are moving to the new platform, which everybody will be doing, then we will move the content and material for you. If you are new to Muzie, then of course you won't have all of this stuff already loaded. You can create and build as you go. So first thing that is new, and this is probably the biggest new feature that we have, so I want to address this straight away. First thing is classrooms. So with classrooms, the idea is that you can create a space to do lessons with your students, and this allows you to create a link that you can then share with your students, who all they need to do is click the link and join the lesson. Students who have accounts on Muzie can be accessed through the normal way in which they work and have worked in the past, which is you'll go to the student page, you'll see your student in the student list, and then you'll start the lesson from there. The thing with classrooms that makes this kind of cool is that you can create classrooms and you can invite students who have an account to a classroom, or students that don't have an account. So you can mix and match. A good example would be like a recital, where you might have students who have accounts on the platform, they're all invited, and you might have parents and family members who just use the link. So rooms are very flexible because you can create rooms for whatever you want and really however you need to use them. So to create a room, click New Classroom up in the top right corner, name the room, and you can select a category, or you can just type in your own category, like this. Cool. If you'd like, you can enable the waiting rooms. Waiting room means that when the student joins the room, you have to then admit them into sort of the final step. So they can't see or hear you, and you can't see or hear them until you admit them. And that's if you turn the waiting room on. If you don't turn the waiting room on, then the student can just enter the room when they click the link. When you're creating your classroom, as I had mentioned before, if you want to specifically invite students to this classroom, you can select them there. If you have a link for your room, you have the ability to do offline mode. This is really important, and this is very powerful. As far as I'm aware, Muzie is the only platform that does this, where you can share a link to somebody, and then they can use that link whenever they want to. The teacher doesn't necessarily have to be in the room. They can use the link to go back into that room in an offline mode, which allows them to still access all of these resources that you can see here. And as you can see, that is configurable. So you can actually choose what resources are available to your students or guests that are entering a room offline. And vice versa, when you're online, which would be live tabs, you can configure those as well. Typically, you don't really need to worry about these, but if you specifically do or don't want features available to your students or your guests, you can go ahead and set those as part of the room settings. But it makes it really cool because students do not need an account to be able to access files, resources, and lesson materials that you have shared with them during a lesson. So they can access that stuff outside of class time whenever they want to, just by clicking the link. So we're going to go ahead and create the room. And this will take us into the room dashboard. So what you're going to see here is information about the room. So let me just actually back out and show you a room that has some information already in there. Yeah, perfect. So in this case, you can see the lesson history with all the past lessons, the total lessons. If there were students invited, you would see that there. The total time that you've been teaching, again, you'd see the students in the list here, as you saw on the last page. Recordings, the most recent recordings, and you can jump to the recordings of that lesson. The AI summaries, and a little bit of information about resources that you've created inside that room. So this is sort of your room dashboard where you can kind of get a little bit of insight into that classroom without actually going inside the classroom. This is also where you can edit the classroom settings that we just looked at earlier, but there are some additional settings that you can take into account here. If you need to, you can actually disable the classroom. Again, you can toggle the waiting room on and off. You can actually disable or enable the link. So if you want to do a classroom that is only students and there is no external link, you can disable that. Offline access, as we mentioned before, that is something you can enable or disable as well. And a password. So you can choose if the room is password protected or not. And then all the other features that we talked about a few minutes ago. You can control those all from here. The other thing is sharing your link. Sharing your link is really important because that's how students who do not have an account are going to access the room. So the way you can do that is by just clicking copy link and then sending it in an email, text message, however you want to, posting it on a forum or something if it's public. It's just a link so you can share that however you want. Or you can actually go ahead and enter email addresses, and you can see that you can enter multiple email addresses into here. And you can hit send to send it through our built-in sending tool. What's also really neat about that is if you want, you can go ahead and customize the message that is included with that. So in here, this is the message template, and down here is the preview. So you can actually go ahead and edit this, and you'll see down in the preview that it's changing in real time. We've also included a couple of quick links here. So these are things that are like presets, and as you can see, they're filling in a whole bunch of information, so you don't have to type that out manually every time. You can even save this as your default message. So if you want to, write out a big welcome message, you can go ahead and do that, and then save that as a default. And then when you're sharing links in the future, that message will be saved for you. So yeah, you can share the link through just copying it, or you can share it through our whole built-in system here. So that's pretty cool. This is also where you would start the class. So you go here and you'll click Start Class. Just to mention though, you can also start the class right from this home page. So you can just hit Start Class. And if it wasn't clear, you can also share the link right from this page as well. And to access the dashboard, you just click onto the room, and that's how you get in there. So that's the biggest, newest feature on Muzie. It's going to be very powerful. It's going to allow you to do a lot of really cool things. So I'm really looking forward to seeing how people handle that. Next is students. This is pretty much what you're all used to already. So if you're not familiar with Muzie, the way we've been doing it is students sign up for an account, they link to their teacher, and then the teacher starts the lesson by clicking on the student in their student list. That is still available and still is arguably the best way of doing things. Just depends on your situation, but students that have accounts do have access to additional resources, different practice tools, just more tools and features and functionality that the students who do not have an account can't access. So that is something worth mentioning, that having an account for a student is still a benefit. They do get more out of that, although students who do not have accounts still get more than a traditional platform would be able to offer because of those offline rooms. So just keep that in mind when you're thinking about how you want to set things up, but it's up to you. So the idea here is that you have your list of students. You'll see the status of whether or not they're online or offline. You can set instruments to those students. You can see when their last lesson was. If you schedule lessons, which we'll go to next, you can actually see their next upcoming lesson. And then you have the start lesson button over here. Now, one thing you'll notice is different from the old version of Muzie is you can start a class when the student is offline. So you no longer need to wait for the student to be online in order to start the class. You can start the class whenever you want. The student can log in, they'll see the invitation, and they'll join the class. So that allows you to really have a lot more flexibility from the old platform, which you were required to wait until the students signed in. So again, you would go to this page, click on Start Class, and you go right in the room. Similarly to the classrooms, you can click on a student, and it will open a student dashboard, which, as you can see, is very similar to the classroom dashboard, but this gives you a little bit of information about that student. The classrooms they're a part of, the lessons they've done, the total lesson time, assignments that they have, whether or not those assignments are in progress or completed, and how much practice time they have done. And you can actually click that to go to the leaderboard, which I'll show you in a bit. Resources that you've shared with them, you can send a message, you can look at their history, and a little bit of contact information that they set in their account. So this is basically your student profile page, is essentially the way of looking at this. Another thing we've changed is in the old Muzie, what you would do is remove students from your student list. And it was kind of annoying to get them back onto your student list if you wanted to reinstate them. Now what we've done is we've set it up so for students, you can go into here and you can actually enable and disable students by going into the details. So that's something that's kind of neat because you can customize the student list and who you see much more efficiently. So next big thing that we've got is scheduling. This is another big new feature. Now we did have a little bit of scheduling in the old Muzie. This is a full rebuild and a much more capable tool. So as you can see here, this is a full calendar. The old Muzie used to just be sort of a list of upcoming events, and it wasn't integrated into anything, so it was a bit clunky to use. This is much better. So the cool thing about this is you have a full calendar, and you can schedule your lessons just as you would in something like Google Calendar. So for example, like if we want to have a lesson later tonight, we can just click and drag, and you can see it's showing how long that lesson would be. And when we let go, it's going to move us into the scheduling panel. So this is what we just scheduled, and that's how long it was scheduled for. You can edit that if you'd like to. Then you are scheduling for either a classroom or a student, or students, if you want to schedule for multiple students at the same time. That's fine. So you go ahead and pick what you're scheduling for. Click Next. This just reiterates that information that we had before. Again, you can edit it if you need to. But it's here because if you're going to do a recurring lesson, you can go into this panel and you can set up the recurrence schedule. So maybe it's, every week for 10 weeks, or, it's maybe every other week for, 8 weeks, or it ends on a specific date, or it just is indefinite. You can pick and choose whatever you want here. So this is just based on what you need for the lesson. And then you click Schedule Lesson, and you'll see that it is now taking you to a panel to confirm the scheduled lesson, and if you'd like to, add this event to your Google Calendar. So now we are finally integrated to other calendars. We will add iCal and Outlook as we go, but Google's the easiest to work with and the most common, so we're going to start there. So then when you're done, just hit close. That also automatically sent an email invite for you to the student, so the student has been notified that they have events that are upcoming. And as you can see right there, the lesson has been scheduled, and I believe if we jump forward 2 weeks, we should see another lesson. So that is now scheduled out in that repeating pattern that we had set. So this is just so much more capable than it used to be. And this is something that we're going to actively build on and add to. So if when you're looking at your calendar, there might be more capabilities and more functions than I'm showing you right here, that's just because this is something that we will continue to be working on as we go. For those that do like the old school list that we had in the old platform, you can toggle between the two views. So if you want to do that, no problem. And yeah, so that just is a little bit more like what we currently have in Muzie. So scheduling is going to be great. Again, really looking forward to seeing how people utilize this. The next big thing is messaging. We've changed up the way that the messaging tool works a little bit to make this feel and act a lot more like a regular messaging platform. Previously in Muzie, one of the things was a little bit kind of a quirk to our platform is you would select the student and then message them or share a file or do whatever it is you needed to do. And that's fine, but it led to quite a few limitations. So we've actually reversed the model. Now what you do is you select the tool and then you select the student or students that you're going to interact with in that tool. So to explain that a bit better, I can show you, like with messaging. You can go in here, click New Chat. You can chat with a classroom or student or students, and you select the students. And if it's multiple, then it will create a group. So you'll say, my group is awesome. And you'll create the group. And then you can send your message. So you say, hello. And there's a message now to my group is awesome. And you have a little indication here that it is a group. And if you need to, you click on that to manage the members of the group. So you can add more or subtract people later or delete the group if needed. This is just a lot more familiar because now you have all of the chats that you've got with students and groups on the sides, and you can just flip back and forth between the different groups and different chats. So it feels much more natural and it's just a little bit easier to use. So nothing earth-shattering here, but it is a much better system and it's just, just an improvement overall. So I'm quite happy with that. The next feature we're going to talk about, I know that this one is going to be a little bit of a contentious topic, but anyone who knows me, you know I love AI and I am always looking at new technologies and what they can do for us and how they can be used to help us. So with anything on this platform, I'll say this here, you don't have to use it. If you don't like AI, don't touch this panel and it will never get in your way. We don't run AI in the background automatically or anything like that. This is entirely a you choose to interact with it and hopefully it can do something useful for you. So as an example, you can chat with this AI and it can look through all the information in your account to do things on your behalf. Some of those things that are sort of expected would be things like maybe write a lesson assignment or write some notes or find a file in my library. Things you'd expect from sort of a basic ChatGPT type platform. Some of the things that are a little bit more powerful though are agentic functions, such as schedule a lesson for so-and-so at this time. And it will actually go into the scheduling tool and do all of those steps I showed you earlier on your behalf. Of course, you can control it and edit it and everything, but it is really neat because it does have the ability to do things, not just send information back to you. So let's try. So let's give it a shot. Now, what is also interesting about this AI tool is you can actually customize the prompts and you can sort of train it, so to speak, so that it can do things in the way that you like to do things. So the more you use it, the smarter it will get. So as you can see, it's pulled up an actual scheduling tool for us. Now, it didn't recognize Sam Reddy, which is valid because I doubt there's actually a student in there specifically called Sam Reddy. So it's actually looking for me to create a room for it. So I'm going to go ahead and say my awesome room 2 is going to be a new room that I'm going to have for Sam, and it's going to last an hour. And I'm going to go ahead and schedule that. And now my awesome room 2 has been created and scheduled on the system. So this is just really cool because you can do so many different things with this that you normally would spend time manually doing. A good example too would be like, how many lessons do I have scheduled for today? And of course you can look this up manually, but the idea is that the AI can pull resources strictly from your account and show you the information right here on the screen. If you go down here into the corner, you'll actually see this little question mark, which is a whole bunch of example prompts. So this can just give you some ideas on what it is you can actually do with this. And there are some settings you can do, which shows the agent mode and the reasoning and things like that. So a little bit of customization there. And if you want to create a new chat to start a new thread, just click the new chat button at the top and you'll begin a new conversation. But you can always go back to your previous conversations. So if you're familiar with ChatGPT or Claude or any of the major AI platforms, this is a similar concept, but scoped down to focus exclusively on your account in the platform. These AIs don't speak to each other, so you can't find information from anybody else. But it's really useful and quite powerful to have this, kind of at your fingertips. This is also available inside the lesson, which we'll get into in a bit. But yeah, really cool. So next big thing, library. So this is something that hasn't actually changed all that much. File sharing is, file sharing. There's not too much of an earth-shattering, leap in technology for this that we can share. But there's some cool little changes, and I think some functionality things that make this just a bit better than it was before. So the first thing that you're probably noticing right away is you can toggle between list mode and thumbnail mode, which I personally really like. You can organize the lists by type, by owner, by room, things like that. And your controls are now all up here in the corner. So instead of having a big new button and a list of items, you kind of have individual controls here. So upload file, create a folder, things of that nature. The biggest change is probably related to sharing content, which I alluded to when we were talking about the chat tool, but this is a really good example of that. In the old Muzie, you would click on a student and then toggle the share button. In this platform, what you do is you click on the share icon, which is the 3 dots that are connected to each other. This is sort of the universal share icon. Click on that. It will bring up a list of students, and then you can multi-select who you want to share it with and hit share, and it's immediately shared with those students. This makes sharing with everybody, with groups, with selected students, or even with individuals so much easier, because you can also do the same in reverse and take things away. So that's one thing that I just wanted to bring up because it just is so much easier. Another feature, which I'm so glad we have, which is something we just couldn't do on the old platform, and I'm so excited to have this. It seems like a little thing, but those of you who have been with us for a while will know this is a great upgrade, is you can multi-select, and then you can drag, and you can drop, and it will move those items into the new folder. So those 2 sheets that we had down here have now been moved into this folder. When I open that folder, you can see those 2 worksheets have been added. It's a simple thing, but honestly, I'm super excited about that. It's just going to make moving things around so much easier. So really cool. Then there's one other new feature that I wanted to highlight that is quite unique and something that we had been toying around with for a while, and we decided to add it because we think there's quite a few cool things that teachers could do with this. But again, it's sort of you guys take it and tell us what you create. This is commenting on a file. So this is probably quite unique to us, but the idea is you click on the file you want and then click comments, and then you can actually write messages on the file itself. And the idea is that you can make notes, you can add thoughts, you can kind of put things within the comment, within the file that are not explicitly the file itself. So I think this is just really neat because it allows you to kind of add extra instructions or thoughts or whatever it might be that you need to kind of, I think of it as literally, take a piece of paper, you write something on a sticky note, stick it to that paper so you can remember to do something later. That's kind of the idea here. And those comments are shared with students too, so you can make notes about the file, maybe even explain the file a little bit if it needs explanation, or again, whatever it might be. So this is something we're interested to see what you guys do with it, but yeah, I think it's gonna be pretty cool. Same as before, you double click on a file to open the file. You have a file viewer, as you can see here. There's the file, and you do what you need with it then. In that case, that was a PNG. Let me grab a PDF, because the PDF has a slightly different file viewer. So this is the PDF. So this has zoom controls and page turning. So if it's a multi-page PDF, you can flip through the pages and you can zoom in and out and all that kind of stuff. We also, many of you probably know this, but you can right-click on a file to get the functions menu. You can click on the three dots to get the functions menu. Or when you have something selected, these tools up at the top are essentially the same thing. So a couple of different ways to sort of manage your files, but that is the new file system. So yeah, I think that's really cool. Recordings. This is going to seem like a silly one. For those who have been with us for a while, will know there's never actually been a recordings tab. We've always just had a recordings folder. Finally, we have made a dedicated window for lesson recordings. And it's important because recording capability is exponentially more powerful than it used to be. What we used to do is, like every platform on earth, is record your video, share the video with you so you can watch it later. Awesome. What we do now is we not only record the video, but we, if you choose to, analyze the video and render that video into multiple formats so you can do more with these resources. So, to explain. So let's go inside one of the rooms, say this room. You can see all of these are lessons that have been recorded. So I'm going to jump down to this one here because you're going to see 2 recordings, analysis, and summary. So this is all of the capabilities that we have, it all used at once. So what you're going to get is individual recordings of each person that's in the lesson. So those are standalone recordings. So if I go ahead and open that window, you're probably just going to see me, and that's just me. That's just my recording from that lesson. If we go back and I click on the other guest, which might be me again, which usually is, that would be your student or whoever else was in the lesson. Of course, this was a session where I was in there by myself. So the idea is that you can take the recordings from a lesson and you have the individual files. So if you want to take those off Muzie and put them on YouTube or turn them into a course or create content with them or do whatever you want, that's entirely up to you. You now have them as individual assets. You also have them as a composed recording, so you have both of the recordings side by side. And within that, if you choose to do the analysis, you'll have this page, which is really cool. So if I open this, what you'll see is that we have the recordings over here, and we have an AI analysis of the entire session. So you can see, obviously, this is probably just me talking to myself and testing things. But the idea would be that you'd have a summary of the lesson. A sentiment is sort of happy, sad, engaged, disengaged, things like that. Key speaking points. So this will pull out important topics throughout the lesson and has them attached to timestamps. So you can actually click on these to jump the recording to that location. Then you'll have participants. You'll see who was in the room, who spoke, who engaged, information about how they participated in that class. This is just really neat because instead of a recording that you just have to rewatch and scrub through and try to find that one part that was really important, this now pulls that information out into a way that makes it so you can jump around the recording efficiently. You can use the scrubbing bar over here too, but this just gives you details and information about your lessons that you previously wouldn't have had. This is available to the students too if you choose to analyze your recordings. So if you choose to analyze your recording, then the student will also have access to this. And then when they're practicing, they have all of this information at their fingertips. Also really great for students that can't make it to class. I think this is a fantastic way of presenting the lesson that they might have missed, and that gives them a lot more information than just a recording. So finally, a recordings tab. And as you can see, a lot more capabilities within the recordings. And just to explain this, I think it's quite obvious, but just to dig in a bit deeper, you'll see all your lessons in all your classrooms. You click on the room, you click on the session, and then you'll see the resource. Oh, and actually, I had forgotten one, which is the summary. The summary is a report. So this isn't necessarily a recording itself, but this is a report of the lesson. This is kind of a technical report. This is something that you're probably not going to engage with all that much, but is really useful if you run into any issues or have a problem with your lesson or something weird happens and you want to reach out to support. If you can provide us with this report or let us know which lesson it is and we can go find the report, this will give us so much more information about who was in the room, when did they join, how long were they there, what happened, were there messages, were there files shared. This kind of information can really help troubleshooting if necessary, but also just for your own sake, if your own personal sanity, if you want to go back and check, like, hey, did I send that file to the student in that, which lesson was it that I did that in? You can just pop open this report and it'll give you all this kind of information. So again, probably not something you're going to be using day to day, but we have it, so we figured why not provide it. So yeah, recordings, super happy. Yeah, I think it's going to be great. History, pretty straightforward, nothing too crazy here. This is quite literally just a running log. This is all of your sessions, just in a row, in order that they've been conducted. This, again, is more just a reporting tool. You're probably not going to hang out in here. This is just, hey, did that lesson occur? How long was it? Who was in it? Things like that. A little bit like that report, but just kind of high-level stuff. So, again, nothing crazy, but worth mentioning. Now, the next set of tools are really cool, but I'm actually going to wait until we jump into the lesson room itself to show you these, because they're just a little bit more functional in the lesson room. Not that you can't fully use these outside the lesson, you absolutely can, but 90% of the time you'll be using these inside the lesson, and they work the same. So you don't have to worry about learning two different systems or anything, but you'll see what I mean when we get in there. I'm just going to jump down to Leaderboard. So as you know, we've had practice tools on Muzie for years, and as always, we're expanding those and adding to them as we go. So the Leaderboard is pretty cool. Nice new design. It's a little bit more intelligent, which I think is fun, showing things like who was in first last week and who's in first this week, and actually showing the positions on the leaderboard that they move up and down. You can see the sessions that they practiced this week, the streaks, how many days in a row, if you set goals for your students, mostly in assignments. And we'll talk about it in a bit, but in an assignment, you can set a goal. Then you'll see the goals appear here. And then what I think is really cool is you can dig into the students themselves. So if you go ahead and click on a student, you'll actually see a bit more of a practice report. So this goes a lot more in depth than it used to do. And so you'll see where they stand in the class, their instrument, when they joined, how much they practiced this week, how much they practiced last week, how much they practiced in the last 90 days, total practice time. You'll see an 8-week trend graph of how much time they practiced. And then this is a fun one. This is a day, like a daily sort of heat map. So each of these is a day of the week, and you'll be able to hover over and see how much they practice. So you can see like the dark color is a lot of time, and the lighter color is less time. So you can kind of see down here less and more. Then you'll see exactly what they're practicing, and you can actually click on these assignments to go inside the assignment and see what the student was working on. You can also, if you go to all time, you'll see the leaderboard, first, second, third place. So the students still have badges and things. You'll notice we removed a lot of the sort of caricatures and things like that. We might bring some of that back a little bit, but we are going to roll that slowly. We want to make make sure that the identity of the platform is feels modern and doesn't feel too childish for a lot of students. So yeah, Leaderboard is really cool. Really excited about that. So it's just a lot more capable, and you get a lot more insight. Same as before, pianos, guitar, drums, violin. I'm going to show you those inside the lesson because they're a little bit more useful in there. Not that they're not useful here, but you'll see what I mean. So let's actually go ahead and jump into a classroom. So I'm going to go to my classrooms. Let's just use this new one that we created today, my roomy room. I'm going to go ahead and start the class. Now, this is, hello everybody, this is how you enter the room. And this page is probably the most important page on the whole platform, because this is what you need to teach an online lesson. And it's super simple. You need a camera, you need a microphone, and you need some speakers. And that's pretty much it. Now, this will connect right away if you have not allowed access to the camera and microphone ahead of time, which is fine. It will prompt you, and then in the top corner of the screen, you'll get that please allow button, and you just click allow. And if you don't click allow, there are settings that you'll have to manage in your computer or in your browser to then reallow it. I'm going to make some separate videos about that because it differs based on what browser and what computer you use. But sort of the short and sweet is you can actually usually just click up here in the corner, there's a camera icon, and you can just make sure that it's set to allow. And that's half the battle, honestly. So make sure your camera's on, make sure your microphone's on, make sure your speakers are on. You can test your speakers by clicking the little play button. It'll run a little bell. The microphone, you can see this level moving up and down. If that level is not moving, then your microphone is not being picked up by your browser. And that usually just means you need to reset the permissions. Camera, if you cannot see yourself, like I can here, then your camera is not connected. If for any reason these are not filled in, you can click the refresh button, and that will prompt your computer to allow access again. So the cool thing is this is just really straightforward. It's a lot easier than the old platform. And so most of the time, as you saw, like when I joined, this was already preset. I don't actually have to do anything. And then I just hit Start Classroom. And then this will connect and bring those right into the classroom. So now we're in the classroom. The layout of the room is familiar to those who are using Muzie currently, but it is different. So we're going to go over that because there is quite a bit here that is new. So the first thing that you can probably notice is just in general, the whole feel is a little bit different. So let's start bottom left and we'll go through the basic tools, and then we'll move to the right and we'll go through sort of the teaching tools and the fun stuff. Okay. So first off is microphone. This is just mute your microphone or unmute your microphone. So on, off, pretty basic. Speaker, same deal. Mute your speakers, on and off. Camera. Now this one's a little different because there's some more options here. So when you click on camera, what you'll do is you'll see a whole list. First thing is mute your video, so turns off your camera. You can now hide yourself. I know there's quite a lot of people who don't like to see themselves on screen. So hide yourself does not stop the camera from transmitting the video, but you just don't see it. So, keep that in mind. So if you hide yourself, other people do still see you. Switch camera. So if you have multiple cameras enabled, switch camera will toggle between them. I'm not sure if I do, so we'll see what happens. Oh, okay. Yeah, OBS. So I can then click OBS, and as you can see, I don't actually have OBS turned on, but I've switched to OBS, and then I can go back and I can switch back to my Logitech. So really easy to switch back and forth. One thing that's nice about the switch camera is it used to just be a button that you clicked and it would cycle through. Now you actually can explicitly pick which camera. Next is multicam. This has had a massive upgrade. And this is one of those things that's like, actually kind of super excited about this. Not only can you add more cameras, there's actually no limit, so to speak. The limit is like, it's 50 is literally the limit. So if you have 50 cameras, knock yourself out. But you can add as many cameras to a lesson as you need. So for drum teachers out there, I know a lot of you guys have foot cams, hi-hat cams, snare cams, overhead cams around the back, so you can put them all on screen now. So you click add camera. Again, it'll pull the available cameras. So in this case, I'll just do the OBS one. And then it'll bring it into the room as an additional camera. So as you can see here, now we have both cameras running simultaneously. So that's really cool. Then to get rid of it, you just hit the X. Now, what is maybe the coolest new feature is use phone as camera. So when you click on that, it's going to open a QR code on screen. I'm going to take my cell phone, I'm going to open the camera app on my phone, and I'm going to scan that QR code. On my phone, now, what I'm seeing is a button that says connect. I know you can't really see it, but I'm just going to go ahead and click it so that I can join the call. And there you go. That's my phone camera. This is completely wireless. So I can have this, over my keyboard like that. If I'm playing the piano, I can point it at my feet, whatever. This just gives you full wireless capabilities directly from your cell phone. So big fan. I think that's really cool. On here, you can flip the camera, so you can use the front camera, the back camera. You can do whatever you want. And then there's a little just end button, like a phone call. So I just end the call, and I've disconnected. So that is going to be so powerful. No needing third-party apps, no messing around with long cables and all that stuff. You scan the QR code, open your phone, and away you go. So really excited about that feature. That's one of those that I've kind of always wanted to have, and we finally do. So next, device settings. Pretty straightforward. This is just the same panel you had when you joined the lesson, but in the lesson. So you can actually go ahead and just change your microphones, your speakers, your cameras, whatever it might be. So that's just your standard settings panel. Next up is screen share. We have added the feature. We finally did it. And so you can stop asking. It's a joke to those who know. We've been asked for 5 or 6 years to please add screen share annotations, and we've finally we've done it. So you can do it now. So click screen share. See if I have something I can share. I'll just do my whole screen. I'm gonna share that. So I know it's gonna look a bit silly because I'm sharing the screen that we're looking at. But what is important about this? Let me just. That's okay. I like Google. You're welcome. This pen up in the corner. Pick a color. Squiggle around, and there you go. You can now annotate on the screen share, and it's in real time. You and your students see this together. Students can also annotate on the screen share. So if a student clicks on the pen, they can draw, and you will see those drawings in real time as well. If you don't want the student to draw, you can lock it so that only the teacher can draw. So this is just really great because we've been asked for it for years and we've finally done it. So obviously yours won't look like this endless mirror. That only happens when you're sharing the screen that you're actually looking at. So that don't worry about that. That's just because I'm not sharing a different browser window right now. So yeah, your student will see the document, the video, the game, whatever it is that you're sharing, and then you and the student can annotate on that in real time together. Now with annotations, as works with pretty much every other platform, as soon as you stop sharing, the annotations go away. So they're not saved, which is sort of the whole point, but just so you know. The next feature is this little brain here. Now this is AI intelligence and recordings. This is configurable in your settings, so you can kind of pick and choose how this works in your lessons. But there's a couple of different options that I just want you to be aware of so you know what you've got. So when you click on intelligence, you'll see that there's a couple of different modes. First one is just recording. So that will record and transcribe the session. So that's so that if you want to, you can do an analysis on the lesson later and create that analysis page that you guys saw earlier. The second is mood analysis. Now, this is something that we have developed ourselves for other projects that we build, but thought this would be quite powerful, especially in group lessons. This sounds a little creepier than it actually is, but essentially what it's doing is it's mapping your face and monitoring your emotions in real time. And the idea, though, is that you can see on a panel who's actually engaging. Now, when it's a one-on-one, you don't need that. You can look at them and you know. But if you've got 30 people in a room, it can be kind of tricky to monitor everybody all the time. So this is a way of basically having like a third-party monitor, kind of keep an eye on everybody, not so you're like watching them, but so that you can see if someone's literally unhappy, sad, frustrated, angry. It does all of that kind of mood analysis so that you can then address those students as needed and give them the attention or the resources that they need. So, we always try to think of things as how can this help the education? So, it's something that we want to try here. We use it on another platform that we have, and it works really, really well. And we've honestly had nothing but good feedback from it. So we thought it would be, a good addition. The third choice is intelligence mode, which is everything. That's record, transcribe, mood analysis, and AI copilot. So as you saw the AI outside the lesson, this is the AI inside the lesson. So if I turn that on, that'll start up and we'll start the recording. When you do all of them, it does take a minute because it's got to fire up all 4 engines. So don't worry if that's going to take even a minute or two. You can actually already see that the mood analysis is working because it's up here in the corner. It thinks I'm sad right now. Ah, good, I'm happy again. So you can see the little mood analysis cue up there. So yeah, so that's kind of the idea. And we'll dig into that more in a second when we get to the other tools. Hand raising, you can see up in the top right corner, it raises the hand. So this is something that is new. We hadn't had this before, so it's just built-in hand raising. And then layouts. So this is going to look a little weird with only one window, but actually, you know what? Hold on. Let me actually just add let me add OBS back in for a second, just so you can get an idea of what a student what it would look like with a student. So these are the different layouts. So grid mode, which is what I personally like. This is just my personal preference, is a side-by-side. Speaker mode is whoever is selected as speaker will be up at the top. Everybody else will be in a row at the bottom. Then sidebar, similar, but they are on the side. Overlay moves them actually over your screen, so they have a little bit more space to work with. And screen share mode, this is enabled automatically when you screen share. Similar to the overlay, but instead it specifically pins the person who is screen sharing to the top not the speaker. So it's like speaker mode, but it's specifically looking for who is screen sharing. If nobody's screen sharing, then it will just put the host. So yeah, so those are your layouts. So similar to what we've had before, but yeah, cool. Then on the topic of layouts and visuals, you have these 3 dots on the side of the name tag. You have fill video, which you'll see punches it in to fill the whole square. You have full screen, which actually goes full screen on the computer. Use the escape key to exit out of that. And then you have your mute audio, mute video, and mute speakers for each individual participant right from that menu. So that's available too. A couple other little things that are in the lesson window here before we jump into the big tools. Metronome has been moved up to the top toolbar and is now kind of present all the time. This has had a pretty big upgrade too. So click on the tempo, you have the beats, you have the BPM, you have the beats per bar, and you have the volume. So now you can do 1 beat, which is something we didn't have before. So this is basically no accent. So yeah, and then this button here, we've had this in the past, so this isn't new, but the icon is new, is share the click with everybody in the room. So when that is on, what happens is that when you click play, everybody in the room, their metronome is playing. So it's not that they're hearing your metronome, it's actually that you're triggering their metronome. The reason is because obviously if you tried to make it so they heard your metronome, they'd hear it out of time. So this allows you to synchronize the metronomes across the room. So you and your student can essentially play together with a metronome that you can control, and vice versa. The student can control the metronome too. So next feature, sync sidebars. Those of you who have been with us for a while know this one. This makes it so that when you open a tool, open a window, open a file, anything like that, it automatically does so for the student. So that is really cool. It's kind of the foundation, honestly, of our online lesson flow. But again, you can turn it on, you can turn it off. It's on by default. So the idea is when you open the tools automatically open for the student. When you open a file, that file automatically opens for the student. So it saves the student needing to click around on the platform. They can just focus on their instrument and what's on screen. Next is the classic, tried and true, is the emojis. We've added a couple of new ones. We've improved our fireworks display because obviously that's the most important thing. These are shared again in real time with your students. So when you do this, the student will see it as well. Students don't have the emoji tool because I'm not sure lessons would ever end up being anything other than shooting emojis at each other. And there's a couple of new ones in here, which I won't show you. I'll let you discover those on your own. If your room has a link, the link is right here. So you just click it and it's copied, and then you can go share that, paste it, email it, whatever you want to do. You've got the date, you've got the time, you've got the lesson timer. And up in the corner, you have the menu for the tools. We now have it both up at the top and at the bottom, so it's just a little bit easier. Like if you're already up here, it's right there. If you're down here, it's over there. So we'll get to those in a second, but we're going to talk about maybe the biggest improvement to online lessons in the last 10 years or more. This to me might be the single, I don't want to overstate it, but you'll see. This might be the single biggest improvement to online lessons that we've ever seen. And it is very cool. So without further ado, I'll just get right to it. So MIDI Piano. I know MIDI pianos already exist, so no earth-shattering technology there. But what we've done with this is kind of a step forward that is really quite impressive. So never mind the fact that you can click the keys and you'll hear and see the notes in real time. So with your student, we've added a couple more modes, like you can do notes, which show the notes on the keys. You can do sticky notes, which allow you to click on the keys to show specifically those notes. Fading notes, which shows the notes for a couple seconds and then has them fade away. And a new thing is finger numbers. So you can actually go in and tag specific numbers to specific keys. And all of this is being shown to your student in real time. So they're seeing this as you do it. Key sizes, you can do small, medium, large. The keyboard now scrolls, which is a really nice addition. It makes it so much easier to move back and forth between octaves. And one thing I think is really cool is when you play a chord, it actually reads out that chord right here. And so yeah, really neat. You've got a volume control over here. You can go up and down in volume. We now support sustain pedals. So if you have a sustain pedal, you can trigger that. If you don't have a sustain pedal, you can use this as like a sustain button. It's really great for drones. I know a lot of vocal teachers really like to have a drone that students can then practice singing over. So that's really clever. Then the big thing, MIDI Passthrough. So what MIDI Passthrough does is if I take that piano behind me and connect it to my computer, and then your student takes their MIDI piano and connects it to their computer, when I play that piano, it will send the signal through the computers, out the other side, and into the other person's piano. And it will play that piano instantly. And why I can say instantly is we actually invented a way of sharing data across computers that is brand new. That enables the ability to not only share the MIDI across, but to do it so fast that it is real time. The holy grail of online lessons is being able to play a duet with your students. This is the only realistic way of doing that. Now, the big catch, it has to be MIDI. It has to be piano, drums, MIDI guitars can do it, beat pads, samplers, things like that. So for those of us that play an electric guitar or an acoustic or a drum, electric drums do it really well. We'll talk about that in a sec. But for traditional instruments that are not electric, unfortunately, we're still stuck at the speed of sound. Well, speed of light. This is faster, basically, because this is, like I said, it's the MIDI on the piano is triggering the MIDI on the other person's piano. So the second thing that makes this amazing is it is perfect audio quality. And I can say that because it's not using a microphone at all. It's actually triggering the onboard MIDI on the device. So what the student hears is exactly what they would hear if they themselves clicked that key on their piano. It uses the onboard sounds, so there is no distortion, there's no issues with audio fluctuations, nothing. It is literally perfect audio quality instantaneously. So I am beyond excited to share this with people because this is going to be, literally game changing. This is one of those things that I can't even say enough about this because it is literally going to change the way that people teach music lessons. And I'm so excited to have been able to do this. Now, how you actually do that is go ahead and plug your keyboard in, usually a USB cable or something. Go into the settings over here. MIDI input, I don't have mine plugged in right now. So MIDI input would be your piano. MIDI output would also be your piano. Just to be clear, you're not selecting your student's piano, you are selecting your piano twice. Student will do the same. They will select their piano both times. And then what that does is the input is what you play, and the output for the student is their piano, right? And then vice versa. So that when the student plays, the input is their piano, and the output on our side is our piano. So that way we are hearing what they play on their piano, and it comes out the speakers of your piano. So you will literally hear it perfectly. It's going to be great. I'm so excited. Hardware shift, if you've got like a 32 key piano, you can use this to like shift the visual on the screen to match your piano so that it feels a little bit more natural. Yeah, and then the same kind of ideas here. These are sort of just configurations of making your device work better with the visual on screen. So, yeah, So those are the settings, and that is probably the coolest feature we'll ever add, to be honest. I mean, we'll work to top it, but I don't know how we'll do it. Maybe it's this next tool. I'm just kidding. But maybe. This is pretty cool. MIDI Drums. So most drum lessons now, it's actually like 70% or something. 70% of drum lessons are actually done on an electric drum set. Makes sense. Most new drum sets that are purchased are electric drum sets. Makes sense. Carl, our CTO, he was a professional drummer. He plays on a Roland V drum set, has for 20 years. So they're very popular, almost as popular as electric keyboards versus pianos. So what makes this so cool is this solves probably the biggest problem with drum lessons. Drums are loud. Microphones on computers are tiny. It's really hard to play the thing on the drums and have it be heard clearly on the other side. This solves the problem. Same situation. Take your drum set, plug it into the computer. Take your student's drum set, plug it into their computer, set your MIDI in and out. When you play your drums, it will play out of the student's speakers or headphones as if they were playing it themselves. Now, what makes this really cool, though, is the MIDI Learn button over here is you map your drum set to this drum set, because obviously drums can have more configurations. So what you'll do is you'll click snare drum and then hit your snare drum. And then that is telling the computer, that's my snare drum. Hit the kick drum, hit your kick drum. And then you only have to do this once. So once you're mapped, you're good to go. And if you're using just a regular 5-piece drum set, as you see here, it'll actually map it automatically for you. This is really like if you've got a bigger drum kit or maybe a different setup, then you can specifically tell it what cymbals and what drums to play when you hit what. So that's just really cool because it kind of solves a big problem of drums being more configurable. This is something we'll add more to as we go, so don't be surprised if in the future what you see here is actually a bit different. We might have more different types of kits that you can pick from, more presets, and maybe even a custom kit where you can pick and choose all the drums yourselves. But yeah, once you've mapped your drums, click done, and now everything you play on your drum set, not only will it play those drums on screen, it will light up as you play them, but it'll go all the way to the other side, and it'll actually play out of your students' speakers or headphones. Yeah, so again, I mean, this is the kind of stuff that gets me excited, because this is the stuff that genuinely changes the way that people are going to interact online. And that's kind of what I'm always chasing. So yeah, if we can make better education, then we're doing our job correctly. So yeah, again, I don't want to ramble too long on that. I probably already spoken about it for 20 minutes. But yeah, I mean, to me, just mind-blowing. So I'm so excited for people to use this. Okay, now the big stuff. And most of you that have used Muzie in the past, you know most of what I'm about to show you. But for new teachers, there's a lot of stuff here. So let's dig in. So tools. So when you open the tools, you get this panel that has all of your resources. Now, one thing to mention, this is a new thing, is, I'm just going to change this real quick. You can actually now slide your tools menu manually, and what you'll notice is that, as you can see here, the videos will configure based on how much room they have. So there's sort of a breaking point there, and you can see that they go to the side. So this is really neat just because it gives you a little bit more flexibility on what the room layout actually looks like. I've got quite a big computer screen here. This is like a 23 or 25 inch screen. So I have a lot of real estate. You may or may not have as much. But yeah, it's just, now it's configurable manually. Anyway, first thing here, participants. This is no different. It used to be called attendees. All this is this is the page where you will control the microphones and audio for the participants in your session. When it's a one-on-one, you can usually just click this and do it down here. But if you've got a big group, this can be really nice because you can kind of handle more videos and more cameras and stuff all at once. One thing that this allows you to do is something that we call breakout audio. So people always ask, do we have breakout rooms? And the answer is no, but on purpose, because I personally just don't think breakout rooms are the right thing to do. So what we do is what we call breakout audio. And the idea is that on this panel, you can select the speaker icon for the people that you want to hear you speaking, and then only those people can hear you talk. And so I can like have the speaker on for me and one student, and only the two of us can talk back and forth. Nobody else is hearing us talk. So you can create groups within the larger classroom and have private conversations and not disrupt the rest of the lesson. Really great for group lessons, especially if you're kind of going around the room helping people out or want to create little groups inside the class. But the cool thing is the students don't leave the room. So you always visually see all your students and have a bit more control over what's actually happening in the lesson. So I'm a big fan of that one. Chat. I'm pretty straightforward. This one's, not reinventing the wheel here. I guess we added emojis. So, yay. You're chatting with your students that are in the lesson. It's a live chat. As you saw earlier, these chats are available outside the classroom, so you can continue that conversation after class. Awesome. Files. Files has some cool new stuff. Again, if you're skipping around in this video, maybe jump back to the files section of this video where I go into a lot more detail. But the thing to know is you just click this 3-dot icon to share the resource, select who you want to share it with. These, as you can see, are specifically the people that have been invited into this lesson or are currently a part of this lesson. So you're not sharing it with everyone, you're just sharing it with the people in the room. If there's only one person in the room, when you click that share button, you will not see a panel to select the person. It'll just do that automatically because there's only one person in the room. So it knows that you're going to share it to just that one person. That panel only shows up when there's multiple people in the room and you specifically want to choose who to share it with. That is actually a big improvement over the old system. In the old Muzie, when you shared a file in a group, everybody automatically got access to it, which might not be what you want. So now in a group, you specifically choose who gets access to those resources. So I'm quite happy with that. Another feature that we've added that was a highly requested feature is the ability to draw on PDFs that are not whiteboards. So we'll get to whiteboards later, but this is like you just want to mark up a document. You want to point at some stuff. You want to highlight some lines. These markups are not saved. These are just temporary. You can erase it too, so you can, your student can do the same, so you guys can mark this up together, so it is kind of interactive. But the idea is that this is temporary markups. This is just, you wanted to highlight something, point something out, quickly kind of, exclaim something or whatever it might be. This is just, again, temporary. But I've met a lot of teachers, and that's exactly what you want. That we've heard it over and over again, that they don't need it to be saved. They don't need the full integration of the whiteboard. They just want really quickly to note something on a piece of paper. This is the way to do that now. So, and it just works. You just open a PDF and it's just there. You don't have to enable anything. It's just, there's the marker and you're good to go. So yeah, that's cool. I think people are really going to like that. MusicXML. We've had MusicXML in the past. This is not new. But for those that don't know Muzie, if this is your first time learning about our platform, MusicXML is supported. So you get that from like MuseScore or Sibelius or Dorico. I know Finale's not around anymore. So, you might have a repository of old Finale files. Cool. All you have to do is make sure that the tag on the file is .musicxml. As long as it's MusicXML, you'll be okay. If it's just XML, that's not going to work because XML is different. So MusicXML is specifically interactive sheet music. You can click on the notes, you can hit play, and it'll play the notes. This is, again, your student is seeing this too in real time, so when you hit play, they're seeing it move and they're hearing it play. You can highlight specific parts, you can click on specific aims, you can even control sort of like a mini mixing desk of which audio is on and off for these parts that are in the piece of music. You can control the tempo, jump back, all that kind of stuff. So typical controls that you'd have on MusicXML, but fully integrated so that your student is seeing what's happening in real time. So yeah, I think MusicXML is great. Not much more to say about files. I think maybe the only thing that I didn't show earlier was to create a folder. You just click create folder, enter the name of the folder, hit create. You'll see that folder if you go home, and then I don't even remember what I called that folder. Hello. So there's the folder there, and then you can upload things and put them in that folder. These are like organization tabs. These are just ways of quickly finding resources within, and of course you can search. So yeah, files, nothing too crazy there. If you're familiar with Google Drive or old Muzie, pretty similar, just faster, better, sleeker. Cool. Whiteboard. Now this is where it gets fun. We've rebuilt the whole whiteboard from scratch. So this is going to be one of those things that I think people are really going to like, because we got a lot of feedback. The whiteboard is like the most used tool in the entire product. So this is one of those that we wanted to really make sure that we just stepped it up a bit. So click New Whiteboard to generate a whiteboard. We've done away with the, there used to be a menu on the side and one on the bottom. We've condensed all of that to the top, so it's just a lot more streamlined. So the first thing is your pencils, pens, all that jazz. You draw on the board. Again, your student is seeing the drawings in real time as they happen, and they can draw back. It's fully integrated two-way whiteboard. As you can probably catch from the theme of all these tools, the whole idea is that you and your students are collaborating. But, you know, of course, if you don't want them to, you don't have to. A new feature is laser pointer. So this is cool because this is just like a floating ball, and they can see this ball moving around as you move it. So I know a lot of times you might want to like point to something on the board, but not actually write on it. So that's basically, you know, that's the way you would do that now. So that's pretty cool. Shapes, similar to how they were before. You know, you can drag them around, you can change the colors of them. This time you actually have both stroke and fill to change the color, so you can get a little bit more creative. You can duplicate, you can delete, you can rotate, you can scale, all that fun stuff. Big update, you can multi-select by dragging and highlighting multiple items, and you can move those around. You can rotate them, you can shrink them, you can delete them. So multi-select is really good. We didn't have that before, so that's something I'm really excited about. Text tool, this is pretty much the same thing. There was nothing really wrong with this. It works basically exactly how it worked before. You click the text button, you double click on it to get your cursor, and then you can type and write and scale and color and all that same stuff. Colors, you just click the little palette, and then you've got some preset colors here, and then anything you create is that color. Pencil thicknesses, thin to thick. So as you can see, that thick is now the color. Probably the biggest request ever, undo. We finally have it. It was a lot harder than you'd think, but we have undo and we have redo. So you can undo and redo the things that you're doing on the board. So yeah, that one's pretty good. We're very excited to have that. Trash can is delete again. Clear canvas is actually like a full clear. It deletes everything. So the whole canvas has been wiped. These two next tools are probably the most important. So with the backgrounds, you can click on a template and it will just pop up on page. You can click upload to upload from your computer. You can click my files to access anything off your Muzie file storage. And it's super fast. Also, you now have a recents menu up here. So if there's things you've been using a lot in lessons, they're like actively accessible. So that just is going to be so much quicker to jump between things. And these active backgrounds are the ones you've used within this board. So you can actually really quickly navigate between different backgrounds within the same board. So that's really cool to be able to toggle back and forth and manage what's on screen. You also have search. So as you add more templates, you can search through those. You can add your own templates by putting them in the folder called Whiteboard Templates. If you put a file in the Whiteboard's Templates folder, it will appear here in the Quick Access panel. So just so you know, if you have your own personal whiteboards that you like, go ahead and put them in the Whiteboard Templates folder, and then they will appear here. So awesome. Templates, so much easier to use. And then symbols, same kind of thing. Much faster, much easier to use than the old system. They're bigger too, so they're visually a lot easier to see and kind of understand what's what here. So we have all the same stuff and a couple of new things. But the idea is that you just click whatever you need, and it appears right there on screen. And then you can just go ahead, drag it, move it around, duplicate it, delete it, all the same stuff that you can do with anything. Up here, we have some menu options now. Like, we've separated emojis into their own panel, so we'll add more of those. Numbers, we'll add more of those. And this gives us the ability to add more types of elements as we go. We've obviously, Musie's expanded globally to 100-something countries. So we have teachers all over the world that use different types of notation. So it'd be really great that we can start implementing different sets of notations and things like that for whatever styles that you want to work or teach from. So yeah, you just click the item, pops up on screen, you drag it around. As you can see, if you use our templates, the notes are specifically sized to fit those. But of course, you can size those up and size those down, however you need to. So yeah, whiteboards, really great. Same as always, they auto-save, so you can pick up from where you left off later. They're shared with your students, so they can work on them at home. You can attach them to assignments and, all the same cool stuff that we've always had. But yeah, I'm really happy about this. It's basically just a better whiteboard. So that's awesome. Next feature, notes. Now this is actually quite a big improvement because this is, honestly, our old notes tool was terrible. I'll be the first to tell you. It just really wasn't that good. It was kind of like sticky notes, but only the teacher could see them. And they were kind of pointless, and they were a little clunky and hard to use. So this is a full-fledged notes tool. So click New Note. And this is, as you can see, like a full text editor. Bold, italics, strike through. You can even implement code. So you can have like formatting and things and little widgets that you build that can go in here if you want them to. Highlighting, text colors, different heading sizes, bulleted list, numbered list, checked list, quotes, dividers, tables, where you can even just grab like a table size and just inserts it. You can type, anything you want in here. You can export it to a PDF. You can use the AI Magic tool, so you can go in and pick one of the presets. You can write your own presets, so you can go into settings and you can create your own AI prompts. So if there's something that you want to sort of always have it do for you, maybe it's like one I should probably use is like spell check. Just don't change the content. Just fix all the terrible spelling errors. That would be something I would use all the time. But the idea is you could have it make assignments, make practice routines, make lesson plans, whatever you want. Is really cool. So yeah, I mean, Notes is super powerful. The thing with Notes, though, as of now, maybe this changes in the future, but as of now, notes are not collaborative. Notes are teacher writes the note, student receives the note, student cannot edit the note. We might make an option for it to be editable, like a Google Doc where you can both work together. That will be something down the line. But just so you know, this is probably the only tool where the student doesn't actually have editing capabilities right out of the bag. So yeah, the students, though, can make their own notes. So they can make a fresh note and they can type out things for themselves. So I know there's a lot of teachers who actually really like their students to write their own notes. So this would be a great way of doing that. So yeah, Notes, really happy about that. Assignments. Assignments is both the same and different. So this is going to be familiar to a lot of people, but we've made some little tweaks here and there that I think just make it a lot better. So new assignment. So as you can see, now the assignment also has the full note editing capability. So this way you can write structured assignments and format them and do a lot more with the actual text of the assignment than you used to be able to. With an assignment, this is some of the stuff that's the same, is you set a goal, and these are optional, but you can set a goal, you can set a due date, you can set the goal. One thing that's new is the assigning function. This allows you to assign an assignment to anybody. Again, the reason for this is we noticed in group lessons, the old method made it so the assignment was always assigned to everybody in the group. Now you can assign assignments to individuals within that group, or other people outside the class, or a group of everyone, or whatever you want to do. So it's a little bit more flexible there. So you go through, you assign the assignments to the people that need it. Not started just means the student has not opened it yet. When they open it, it will change to in progress, and when they complete it, it will change to completed. One of the other things that has changed here is that we used to do it where you'd write the assignment and then at the bottom you'd add the files. What we've done now, and you can still do that, but we've made it so you can actually import the files into, like, in line with the text. So this is really cool because this makes it much clearer to students what they should be working on and when. So you can say, like, hey, this is part 1, work on this worksheet. This is part 2, work on this worksheet. And attach whatever it is you need to attach to the assignment for the student to work on. So I think this is a much better way of doing this because the student has a direct correlation between the instructions and the resources, where previously there was instructions and then there was resources. So I think bringing those together has actually been quite a good idea. Then, similar to before, but again enhanced and a bit better, is the activity page. Now this assignment obviously has not been worked on, so there's no activity. Let me just jump back real quick and just see if I have one. Maybe this one. Let's see. Cool. Okay, so this one has some activity. So this is the student, their progress, their practice time, how many times they practiced, when they last practiced. And when you click down on this, you get a little bit of information here. Like, that's the progress bar, how many days they've practiced in a row. You'll see here which days they've practiced. Practice entries, those are things like like when the student's practicing, they can make notes, they can upload files, they can record themselves, and they can basically submit things into an assignment. So that way it's actually something you can, like, fully interact with back and forth. New feature too that's a little different is we used to do completion strictly based on whether or not they hit your goal. Now we allow you to also mark it complete, because we understand there's a lot of scenarios where student might not actually reach the goal, or the goal might be kind of arbitrary, and you can actually go ahead and say it's complete, and you'll see that it's marked as complete now. So yeah, assignments, as always, super powerful tool. One of those things that we see used equally as often in person and online. I haven't said this, but I think it's sort of implied. Everything in Muzie can be used for in-person lessons too. I'm just framing it now in online lesson mode, but all of this is fully capable of working in person. And almost all of our teachers do that. So yeah. Clips. Clips has been completely overhauled as well. About time too. And Clips is a great tool. I mean, it's literally one of the most powerful tools that we have. And it was time for it to get an update. So inside the new Clips tool, it's less steps. So as you can see, it jumps immediately right to the recording page. It doesn't ask you public or private, and then audio or video, and then enable camera and mic, all that jazz. You have to do like 6 different steps. It was kind of annoying. Now it's just straight to the record page. And you can toggle back and forth between audio or video still. So if that is something you want to do. You do also still have the ability to change your preferences here. So you can set your microphones and everything. New, really cool feature, importing media. So importing media allows you to import recordings, clips, videos that you upload into other clips. So this is really neat because you can take a recording, like say you record it on your phone. You can then go and upload that to Muzie later on, or maybe you have recordings from years ago, and then you can import it into the clip, and then the student can use that in the clip. Now, to back up for those that don't know fully what Clips is all about, so yes, it's an audio video recorder, but why we built Clips is to do what I call synchronized duets or virtual duets. Obviously, as I've talked about, the holy grail of online lessons is being able to play together. With the MIDI stuff, you can do that. Now, for all of us mortals that still have acoustic instruments, this is your next best option. And the way this works is that in the lesson, right here, right now, you record yourself playing your part of the duet, your accompaniment, whatever it might be. So you hit start recording, and you start to play. There is a metronome too up here that you can use along with the recordings if you want to. So that's great. But you play your part, da-da-da-da, all that fun stuff. Then when you're done, you hit stop and save the clip. Now you can actually name the individual clips. This is a little bit more important because of the importing feature. So maybe this is like blues in E. Save that. And that clip, now that it's saved, is immediately shared with the student. The student can then hit play and play along with you right there in the lesson, and you will hear the student playing with you, and there's no lag because it's coming from one audio source. So it's a really great way of doing what I call simulated duets. Now, to take that up a notch, the student can also record. So they can click, so now just pretend we've jumped to a student. They click new recording, and then they do this. They say play existing clip while recording, turn that on, and when they hit record, your clip will play at exactly the same time that they hit record. So then they can record along with you in this track. So I'm going to do that. You start to play. And as you can see, the clip at the bottom is moving. Hit stop, save the clip again. This is the student side. Now, side by side, we have both of those recordings. And what you can do is go up to the top and hit play all. So I'm going to do that. And both of those clips, as you can see there, are playing in sync. And the great thing about that is that when your student submits their recording to you, if they're out of time, then they really were out of time. You don't have to worry about some kind of internet lag that can make it really hard to tell what's going on. So that in itself is what makes Clips just so cool. A couple of other things, though, that make this specific feature pretty nice is one is enable audio pass-through. So what happens there is when you turn this on and you hit play, the audio from the clips is actually being played out of the student's computer. So it's not that they're hearing the audio come out of your speakers, go into your microphone, and then go back to them. It goes directly to them, similarly to how the metronome works. And a little bit similarly to how the MIDI piano works. But the idea is that you're not relying on the microphones, you're actually sending the direct audio signal to the student. The reason that that's good is that what they hear is the actual recording, so you're not getting any distortion or lag or delay or anything like that. Couple of cool things you can do in Clips is you can create regions. So click the pencil, highlight a region, and then you can name it. So this would be like a good example of like, you could like chunk up a song like verse, chorus, bridge, and make all these different regions. And what makes this really neat is when the student clicks on that region, it will loop that region over and over again. So you can see here, it's going to just play this region. And then when it gets to the end, I'll just wait, it goes back to the beginning. And it'll just loop it. Now what makes that really cool is over here, you have a speed control. So you can actually slow down the clip. So that way if they're playing along, like maybe you play something really cool, really fast, awesome passage for them, they can then just loop that section over and over again. And that way they know, they can then speed it up until they're comfortable playing it at full speed. Another really neat feature that you can do here is, and you can delete regions too. But what I was going to show you is you can actually make comments. So you can click anywhere on the waveform, and you can actually write a comment and be like, great work, nice solo. And this is added to the clip. So the student on their side will see this comment when they open up their recording, or they'll see it in real time if you're in a lesson. So that I think is really neat because you can make comments throughout the recordings to let them know when things are happening. And along with the regions, you could like highlight a region, call it chorus, and make a comment that's like, hey, remember that the chorus is double time or something. And then they can take that information home with them when they're practicing and have access to all of these resources. So yeah, clips, really cool, really powerful. Just something that I'm very proud of. So next big thing, AI. Now, again, I know some of you love it, some of you hate it. If you don't like it, don't use it. Students do not see the AI in the lesson. Only the teacher sees the AI in the lesson. So don't worry about your students seeing this. This is just for you. So when you turned on intelligence mode earlier, what happened is you enabled all of these tools. So we'll kind of go in reverse order. So the first thing is sentiment. You can see that it's picking up, like if I smile, I'm happy. If I frown, I'm sad. If I smile, I'm happy. If I frown, I'm sad. I might look a little angry. So what it's doing is it's trying to monitor engagement and emotion. Now this, again, is something that in a regular one-on-one lesson you're probably not going to look at. This is more like you've got 30, 40 people in the room, and you kind of just need to figure out what's going on, how the general mood is, who's engaged and who isn't. Really great for that kind of stuff. Jumping around a little bit, captions is actually transcription. So it needs 2 people in the room for it to actually work correctly. So that's why you're only seeing one line here. This will transcribe what you say in real time, and it'll type it out basically as you say it. So that's really cool. That's used in the analysis tool that I showed you guys earlier for the recordings, and that's kind of how we know what you said and who you said it to, and timestamps and all of that kind of stuff. Alerts, these are flagged events. So a good example would be like, next week we should work on major scales. It would flag that and say like, hey, you said next week we should work on major scales. Do you want me to save that as a note, or do you want me to add that as a task or something? So those are, it kind of like tries to pick up important moments in the lesson and tries to sort of notate that they occurred. And then the assistant is the AI assistant that you saw earlier. You can ask this questions about the lesson that's happening, and it will do work kind of on your behalf. A good use for this would be like, hey, write me an assignment for this student based on what we talked about today. And then you can go and copy that over into the assignments tool if you wanted to. Or write lesson notes, and you can paste that into the lesson notes tool, or whatever it might be. Summarize the lesson. And there, you see we give you a couple of kind of generic ones, but you can ask it anything you want. For that to work, it has to have the captions functioning. So you have to have 2 people, at least 2 people in the room for that stuff to work. But yeah, it's really cool. So that just is kind of like your super powered teaching aid that's there whenever you need it. Polls. Polls is a new feature. So I really like this feature because I actually think this is quite powerful. I know it's called polls, but you can actually use this as a quiz tool as well. So I think that's really neat because I love kind of giving my students little quizzes during class. Like, what note is the 3rd note in C major scale? I know you'll all yell at me. Poll type, multiple choice, multiple select, yes or no, rating scale, open text. So you can go ahead and pick, what you want. So maybe we do yes or no, which doesn't make sense here. Multi-select, multiple choice. So let's go, A, B, C, E. Anonymous voting allows people to interact with this poll and you don't specifically know who answered what. Showing the results while the voting is happening, for like a traditional poll, like, hey, who wants to work on major scales next? Maybe you want to see in real time who's voting for what, and share the results with the participants at the end. Normally it'll just auto share those with your students. You can turn that off if you don't want them to. And a time limit. So this is where I kind of see it in like a quiz mode. You could do like a 1 minute time limit, and you don't show the results while voting, and but it is anonymous, or sorry, not anonymous if it's a quiz. When you create the poll, you'll see there's a timer. It's active. You can go ahead and answer. So you can say, okay, I think it's C, submit my vote. You voted. And then when the poll ends, so everybody goes ahead and answers their thing, you end the poll or the timer runs out. And then you can go in and you'll see who voted. And it will actually, in a lesson, it will say who chose what. So you can see the names. Unless it's anonymous, then it won't say. So polls are really cool because you can do polls or quizzes basically right here in the lesson. Q&A is slightly different. Q&A is usually more like a group webinar kind of thing, where somebody else, I mean, you can submit questions if you want, but typically it's somebody else submitting the question. And what happens here is other people can vote on the questions that have been submitted, and you can pin them to the top. You can open this up for everybody to answer or only for you to answer. So it's by default, only the teacher can answer the Q&A. So you click this button and you type in the answer. But if you want it to be like a thing that everyone can partake in, you just open it up to everybody, and then anybody could submit an answer. So again, it really just depends how you're using it and what you're using it for. But it just gives you a bit of flexibility, just more interaction with your students is what that's all about. And then the recording tab, this is recordings for this room. So unlike the recording tab that you saw outside the lesson, this one is only for this room. Now, this is a good point to mention. If you are on a standard account, you won't see these tools outside of the lesson. Standard account, one of the restrictions is that you only have access to the tools in the lesson rooms. If you're on a pro account, then you have access to every single one of these tools outside of the lesson, and you can create whiteboards, notes, assignments, clips, use the AI, share the files anytime. So that's sort of the main difference between a pro or a standard account. So if anyone was curious. Then let's go ahead and say our lesson is over. So we're going to end the lesson. Takes us back to our home page. And as you can see, you can go into your roomie room. You can see this is still live. It's not really live. It's just saving the recording right now. So it's currently processing the recordings. You can see the summary has just popped up over there. So it's kind of shutting down the lesson in the background for us. And then later on, the recordings do take a little while, so you're not going to see anything in here yet. Give it, depending on how long your call is, let's say it's a 1 hour call, give it like 15 minutes for it to produce the recordings. It takes about a quarter of the time, which is also much faster than it used to be. Yeah. And then one silly little last thing that I just wanted to show people is up in the top right corner, you can go to light mode, which personally hurts my eyes, but knock yourself out. You can change the color theme on your account. You can also change the text size. So depending on how good your eyes are, I'm actually going to keep mine up a little bit. So you can go and customize the feel of the platform a little bit. Your settings, you have a profile. You can enter this information here. You've got your email address, your first and last name. This is your teacher code. You create your own teacher code. That's during the sign-up process. You can put your phone number in if you want to do like SMS notifications. You can put instruments in there. Time zones is for the calendar, so that the calendar is reading back the correct time zone. Advanced mode is something that may or may not stick around. So in case it does stick around, I'll just briefly mention this. If you turn on advanced mode, so as you can see, if I turn it off and turn it back on, I get a bunch of extra options up here. The idea is that you, like in the advanced mode, you can go into lesson config and you can dictate things about how the tools in your lessons work. I'm not going to go into detail on this. All I'm going to say is if you're using advanced mode, you should be an advanced user of technology in general. This is only for the kind of people that, like, if you're like me and when you buy a new phone, you are excited about spending the next 6 hours customizing every single thing about your phone, then this is for you. If you buy your phone and you just click like set up automatically, this is not for you. And, you know, and not to be too blunt, but this is really like you have to have a specific reason that you want to be changing this stuff. So I'm not going to go into detail on what those things do. You can read through them yourselves if you want to. I will mention this is the AI actions things I'd mentioned a couple times where you can customize the AI prompts yourselves. So you can write your own prompts if you'd like to and specify what tool those prompts are used in. Preferences, we'll add more to this as we go, but this is basically just, for now, it's like how you see your files. Tab defaults, this is sort of a general overarching, like if you hate AI, just go ahead and turn off AI. And then AI will not be a part of your platform. So again, full customization. Security is, these are all the current devices that I use to log into my account, which my password is saved on. You should never need to mess with this stuff, but for any reason, say you have like your password, like if you're, you know, a silly person and you use like one password for everything and, you know, you get your password stolen from Google or probably Facebook, then you want to go and, you know, change all that. You can change your password here. You can revoke access to different devices. This is a good example of this would be like, say you logged in on a computer at like a library and you forgot to log out. You can kind of log out from here, basically. So yeah, more customizations, more stuff. And then, yeah, you can choose between the standard account and the pro account. There's also a studio account if you teach if you are an owner of a studio that has multiple teachers. I'll do a separate video for that. These videos are already way too long, so if you've made it this far, you are an absolute trooper. I think this is like a 2-hour explainer video, so I do apologize. But as you can see, I get a little excited about this stuff. So that's it. You guys know where to find us. We'll still have chat support and stuff like that available. You know, you just click me up in the corner, and you'll be able to chat with us. You can call us. We have a phone number. We have an email address, user.support@muzie.live. Or honestly, just email sam@muzie.live, and I'll try my best to get back to you. Yeah, we're so excited to see what everybody does with this, and we're really excited to look forward to the future of Muzie. And a whole bunch of stuff to come. This is just the beginning. We are ramping up in a serious way. There are going to be big updates coming to the company and to the platform and to the teaching space in general that we are super excited about. So join our Facebook group called Muzie Teachers, and otherwise reach out and say hi, schedule a demo, and I'll walk you through all of this stuff again. And talk to you all soon. Bye.